Hey everyone, welcome. So today we're going to be diving into a pretty incredible text called the Urantia Book. You might have heard of it. It's this huge, ambitious work from the 20th century that tries to lay out, well, a complete blueprint for the entire cosmos. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to break it down. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if someone handed you a 2,000-page book and said, here's the blueprint for the entire universe? That sounds kind of crazy, right? But that's exactly what the Urantia Book claims to be. It covers everything from the nature of God all the way down to the history of our own little planet. All right, so to help us get our heads around this thing, we're going to tackle it in 5 parts. First, we'll cover what this book even is. Then we'll look at how it's structured into 4 big sections. After that, we'll get into how it defines the divine, its idea of a first source and center, and finally, its 3 primal realities. Let's get started. Okay, Section 1, A Book of the Cosmos, an introduction to a vast cosmology. So let's start with the big question. What exactly is this book? So it was first published way back in 1955. And it's an absolute epic. We're talking over 2,000 pages laying out this incredibly detailed cosmology. And it's not just a book of spiritual teachings. No, it's trying to do something way bigger. It's trying to weave together science, philosophy, and religion into one single cohesive story. All right, on to Section 2, mapping the 4 parts. This is our journey from the infinite to the familiar. Now, you can imagine a book this massive has to have a solid structure, right? And it does. It's actually really logical. It takes you on this journey from the biggest possible scale all the way down to things we know. Yeah, it's broken down into 4 distinct parts, and you can think of it as our roadmap for this whole thing. The journey literally starts at the center of, well, everything, and then it's like a cosmic camera that just keeps zooming in layer by layer until, bam, we land right here on Earth. So here's how that cosmic zoom-in plays out. Part 1 starts at the absolute biggest picture, the central and super universes. Then, Part 2 zooms in a bit to our own neighborhood, the local universe. Part 3 gets even closer, focusing entirely on the history of our planet, which the book calls Urantia. And finally, Part 4 zooms all the way in to one of the most significant figures in that history, the life and teachings of Jesus. Okay, moving on to Section 3, Defining the Divine. This is where we learn the book's core vocabulary. And this is so important because, if you're going to read a map, you have to understand the legend, right? Well, the foreword of the book is basically the legend. It lays out these super precise definitions for its biggest concepts. And right out of the gate, it makes this really critical distinction. In this book, the words deity and God are not the same thing. And trust me, this isn't just splitting hairs, it's absolutely fundamental to understanding its entire philosophy. So here's the deal. Deity is the big all-encompassing term. It's the totality of divinity, and it can be personal, pre-personal, even super-personal. God, on the other hand, is much more specific. That word is used for the personalizations of deity. You could kind of think of it like this. All instances of God are part of deity, but not all deity is what the book would call God. And it doesn't stop there. The term God itself isn't just one thing. In fact, the book uses it to describe at least 7 different levels of divine personality. It's pretty wild. You've got God the Father at the absolute center of it all, but you've also got concepts like God the Supreme, who's actually evolving and growing right here in our part of the universe. It just goes to show you how incredibly layered and specific this whole cosmology gets. Okay, Section 4. The first source and center. Now that we've got some of the language down, we can talk about the book's ultimate starting point, the primeval cause of, well, everything. And check out this quote from the foreword, because it really says it all. It says that no thing or being, no relativity or finality, exists except in relation to and dependence on this first source and center. I mean, think about that. It's saying that nothing can exist without it. It's the absolute bedrock of reality. So what is it exactly? Well, the book says this first source and center is the personality of the Universal Father, the ultimate uncaused cause. It's the point from which literally all reality springs forth. It doesn't matter if we're talking about deified reality, like a divine being, or undeified reality, like the pure raw energy of the universe. It all comes from here. All right, our last stop, Section 5, 3 primal realities. So the foreword gives us one final piece of the puzzle. It breaks down all of existence into 3 fundamental phases. So this is the basic framework for everything. First, you have undeified reality. You can think of this as the raw, non-personal energy of the cosmos, the basic building blocks. Then you have deified reality. This is the realm of all divine personality and potential. And finally, you have interassociated reality, which is this huge, complex space where the other two connect and interact. It's basically the book's theory of everything, explaining how it all fits together. So there you have it, from a cosmic zoom-in that takes us from the center of everything to our own backyard, to a whole new vocabulary for talking about the divine. The Urantia Book lays out this just unbelievably detailed map of reality. It describes a universe that is just filled with structure, personality, and purpose. And after showing us this massive, intricate blueprint, it kind of leaves us with the biggest question of all, doesn't it? What is our place in it all?